Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing the standard compound pads from Galfer. For those of you that are curious of what brakes I am running with these pads, I'm running the Hayes Dominion A4 brakes. These brakes stock come with two different brake compounds, one being semi-metallic and the other being metallic. I've tried both and I found that I really liked the way that the semi-metallics felt, but they lacked longevity, so I decided that I was going to try the metallic pads, as I've heard that they last quite a bit longer. I tried those pads and I absolutely hated them. They had this weird thing where they would unbed themselves mid-run, and then you'd have to rebed them in mid-run, which was kind of sketchy and didn't add much confidence to the brakes overall. So I ended up trashing those after like four or five rides, and then started looking for some alternative brake pads out there. I've heard some really good things about Galfer pads, and I was set on getting some of their e-bike pads. Even though this is an analog bike, I wanted to try out the e-bike pads because I've heard that they have good bite and they last really long, as they're made for e-bikes. But they're very hard to find here in the US for some reason. At least for the Hayes Dominion A4s, like those were the only ones that I noticed were really hard to find here in the US. They're a lot more available in Europe, but here not very available. The next best thing was to try the standard compounds. Galfer claims with these standard compound pads that they last a lot longer than other manufacturers out there. The standard compound is a semi-metallic material, which I really liked with the Hayes brakes, although they didn't last very long. So them claiming that these things last way longer than other manufacturers out there was a big upside for me, and I decided to order a set for myself. My first impressions on these pads were not very good, to say the least. There was an issue I had with installing these pads, which was that the pistons in the caliper needed to be pushed all the way in. This is normal when installing new pads, but this was extra crucial when installing these pads because the pad material itself is a lot thicker than Hayes's OEM pads. Having an issue with was that the lever felt like the brakes were overfilled, and so I went to go bed in the pads anyway just to see if it fixed itself, and sure enough it did. And I'm not 100% sure why this happens, but I've had this happen with multiple other pads and other brakes in the past, and they've all done the same thing. So I'm not sure what happens, but the bite point slowly sucks back into where it originally was. So I'm pretty much disregarding that one out of the equation, as it pretty much fixed itself. So if you guys get these pads and you have that happen, do not worry, just ride it a bit and they will suck back into the original lever throw position. Okay, now into the first impressions on actually riding these pads. And again, it wasn't very good. And the first thing I noticed is the top end power was no good. It would squeal really bad when you'd really get on the brakes, and it would almost have like a slipping feeling. I took them out for the full-on ride, and every single run they got better and better and better. So it got me thinking, I'm pretty sure the problem was that these pads just take longer to bed in. That's the only thing I could really think of, is because they were acting like they weren't fully bedded in when I did 30 runs down the road getting these nice and hot, but apparently wasn't hot enough. So if you guys do have these pads, just expect that they take a little bit longer, and you might actually have to get some real trail runs in to actually bed them in fully, because ever since that first ride and first couple runs, the problem pretty much went away. And so I'm pretty much not worried about that anymore, and I just think that the Galfer pads just take a little longer to get bedded in, or at least the standard compound, that is. I don't know if that goes for the e-bike or their pro compound or whatever. Okay, so now I want to get into braking feel with these pads. I was overall pretty impressed with the performance of these pads. I found that the top end power feel was pretty good. I would actually argue that the top end power was more than the semi-metallic pads from Hayes. And I also found that they had more modulation and didn't bite quite as hard off the top. For some people, they might like that on and off feeling, but these pads definitely add some modulation, which really helps when you get into steep stuff and keeping both wheels from locking up. So overall, I'm super happy with the overall brake pad feel of these pads. Okay, now I want to get into value and durability. So the value of these pads are like no other. They're $17 for each caliper, which is almost half the price of the Hayes official pads. Not just that, I find that they perform better than the Hayes pads, and then they also last way longer. I was getting about 3 to 4 months out of a set of semi-metallic pads from Hayes, but with these pads, I've been running them for 4 months now, and I've probably only gone through 25% of the pad life. That's just impressive to me. Sure, part of it is because the pad is overall thicker, but who even cares? If they fit, they fit. The bigger that they are, the longer that they're gonna last. But I can argue that it's not just that they're thicker overall, it's also that the pad material, whatever they're using in the pad material, is definitely a little bit more durable than the semi-metallic compound from Hayes. These pads don't just apply to an analog bike. I would recommend these to anybody, even if you're on an e-bike. I'm sure the e-bike pads are going to last a bit longer than these pads, but I'm extremely happy with the performance of these things, and I would not be hesitant to put these on my e-bike. Speaking of e-bikes, I'm actually testing out the Galfer e-bike pads in my Santa Cruz Bullet that is equipped with some SRAM code Stealth Silver brakes, and I'm running those front and rear, so expect a video in the next couple months on those brake pads. I'm running these pads with Hayes D rotors, 203 millimeters front and rear, and I've had 0 issues with heat. They have always performed the exact same all the way down the trail, and no matter what conditions, they have always performed the same. And since these are a semi-metallic pad, I also wanted to mention that they are not loud at all. I've ridden these in quite wet conditions, and I've had no issues with squealing. These things are silent, so that's another pro that I was super stoked about these pads. Obviously, the semi-metallics from Hayes didn't really make any noise either, but the metallics, on the other hand, that's another story. Those pads made quite a bit of noise if you got any water on them. Heat is not an issue with these pads as well, as I ride some pretty damn steep trails and have no issues with any brake fade or anything like that whatsoever. So there you guys have it. I hope this video was useful to you guys, and if it was, please smash that like button down below. And if you guys would like to see more videos just like this, please smash that subscribe button down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
We keep it live, no compromise. This is how we ride. Boom, bap in the cypher, hands high, worldwide. Feel the vibe, let the bass shake the streets tonight. 90s style forever, we gon' keep it alive. Yo, I'm posted on the block where the stories unfold.